Hey guys, it's your boy, Ballface8020, back again with another great commentary. For tonight's video, I've got like a few things I want to talk about. None of them, though, would merit their own video. So this is a true miscellaneous. You know, I'm just putting like, instead of doing like one bigger video about a topic or, two topics, just focusing, we're not just focusing on anything, we're just doing a few things. A few different things. I'll try not to ramble too much. First thing I want to talk about is my fast, if you saw the previous video. So I ended up failing at the 72-hour mark. So I made it to 72 hours. So it was one of my longer ones. I've gone about that long before. And I think I'm not sure, but I think there's a time where I've gone up to 84. Not sure. While I was on the fast, I was able to really catch up on my sleep, and not just catch up on the sleep, but good quality sleep too. And then after the fast was over, I do feel better. My mood is better and the boredom isn't as severe. So I didn't really, achieve what I wanted to, but I got some things out of it. And, I've known I don't remember the sleep improvements, but I do remember doing other 3-day fasts and noticing mood improvements. Like pretty dramatic mood improvements to the point where like I could eat chocolate again. I didn't eat any chocolate this time, when the fast was over. And, the reason I got away from doing the fast is because I don't like doing them. They're really unpleasant. In this case, though, I'm already pretty excited about my next fast. I feel like I learned a lot from doing this, and that I'm in a better place. I have a better idea of how to approach it next time. I really do feel like my willpower failed me at the end, and that was the main thing. But I was also like beginning to really have doubts, like, should I really be going this long without electrolytes and stuff like that? And I feel like if I had to do it again, I could have got one more day out of it. I could have squeezed one more day. And then who knows how you feel if I make it, how I feel if I make it to that next day. Maybe then I can go further. But, the thing is, I want to go on a longer fast. But the thing, if I'm ever going to do a 5-day fast, I need to do a 4-day fast. I need to at least get to 4 days. And, if I'm ever going to do, a 7-day fast, I'm going to need to do a 5-day fast. If I'm ever going to do a 40-day fast, I need to do a 7-day fast. Mathematically, there's no other way to do it. So I don't know if, I don't know if I'm going to start fasting again. Right now, so I fasted for 3 days, broke my fast on Saturday, then there was Sunday, today's Monday. So it would be like 3 days off, 3 days on. Right now, I'm leaning towards starting a new fast tomorrow. I might give it one more day. We'll see. And but that's where I am with it right now. So we'll see how that goes. And yeah, I'm not super optimistic. I don't really know what to expect. There's a good chance I won't make it 3 days even. But no, I would love to make it 4 days. If I could do Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, I'd be really happy with that, and then it's like I said, if I can make it 4 days, who knows? Maybe I can make it 5. So we'll see. I've talked about how I've been reading more, like fiction to cope with my boredom, and I like to read on a Kindle Cloud Reader for nonfiction. But for fiction, that doesn't work for me. I don't like to read fictional books on a Kindle. So I got a library card and have been checking out books from the library. And this book here is not from the library. It's an old gift one of my aunts got me during Trump's first term. It's called There, There. I don't know if it's reversed on the camera. It's a novel by Tommy Orange. So this Tommy Orange guy is half white, half, Native American Indian. He's got a huge chip on his shoulder about, like, what the white man have done. And, it's obviously that, like, there's, he's half white and he hates himself for it. I would not like this guy if we met. You know, he definitely he really rubs me the wrong way. Like the attitude he's got, like in the book. But the novel follows you know, Indian Americans. I don't know. They don't call themselves Indians. They call themselves natives in the book, which I guess that's how Native American Indians, not Indians from India, refer to themselves as. They just refer to themselves as natives. So we'll say natives. So it's natives, you know, some full-blooded, some mixed, following a variety, like I think 12 different characters living in Oakland. This is in the late 2010s, and it's about the events leading up to and during this powwow in Oakland. You know, at you know, like some sports stadium in Oakland. I got wherever the Athletics play, I guess. I don't know. And it's hard to follow, but it's good. It's good. You know, I enjoyed the book. It really does, you know, takes you to you know, run down urban Oakland. It was, you know, it's good. I liked it, and I would recommend it. Then this is a little bit more interesting. I think my viewers would like, if they were going to read between the booklet I just talked about and this one, they'd probably like this one better. This is Cult. It is a Japanese novel by Fuminori Nakamura. And on the on the front, there's this blurb that says, Fuminori Nakamura is one of the most interesting Japanese crime novelists at work today. It's like, isn't that kind of damning with faint praise? Are there really that many Japanese crime novelists on the scene today? I don't know. This guy is different in that, like, you know, the other, like Tommy Orange hates white people and hates America. This guy hates Japan. But it's more of like a background thing. It's he doesn't have the chip on his shoulder that Tommy Orange does. You know, if you're familiar with Japanese stuff, like maybe you've seen The Departed, which I haven't, but I've heard enough about it that I just like it's not for me. But like Japanese stuff is like so overly complex and unrealistic, and I don't like Japanese movies because I was watching some Japanese stuff for a while because when I saw the film The Ring, I loved it. I still think it's the best horror film ever. So I was trying to get my fix to watch some other stuff, and The Ring is based on a Japanese film called Ringu, which is based on a novel that's also called Ringu, I think. That I'm not really sure what happened with I don't know what happened with the novel, but I saw the Japanese film Ringu, which is very good. The Ring is better. The Ring was actually directed by this Japanese guy who directed Ringu. The Ring is better than Ringu. They're both really good though. The Ring 2 was absolute dog shit. Horrible film. Should never have been made. But anyway, I'm bringing this all up because, so for a while I was, you know, watching Japanese and Japanese inspired stuff. Actually, I don't really think I did watch a lot of Japanese stuff. I watched a lot of Japanese inspired stuff though. But like it's not just Japanese. Like for instance, if you watch Parasite, which is a Korean film, and which is okay, but it's like the stuff in it could never happen. And another very good Korean film is Oldboy. Like there are these films that there's nothing supernatural or sci-fi in them, but they're still like so outlandish that like they make less sense than if you just had outright magic or sci-fi in them. That's what this novel's like. Like with the shit that's happening in this novel, it's like, no, that could never happen. That's crazy. You know, because like I said, everything is like, if you've seen The Departed or heard about The Departed, there's like layers of the conspiracy. And this is like, this is just like, it's like, it feels like an infinite conspiracy that just goes so deep. And there's always somebody behind something else. So I haven't finished it yet. I don't really like it. It's also very graphic, like very sexually explicit and graphic. And it's just like, that's not for me. So, would I recommend it? I don't know. Like I said, I'm not finished it yet. It passes the time, and at least I've made it. This is a pretty long book, and I've made it through 429 pages so far. So it looks like it's probably around, like I'm like 9/10 of the way done. I will finish it probably tonight. Hey, sorry about that. I will finish it probably tonight. Yeah. But would I recommend it? I don't know. It depends what you like. I will not be checking out any more books from this Funimori Nakamura guy, because the book is not great. It's good. It's okay, but it's like, okay is not enough for me to put up with all that, gross sex stuff they've got in there. Changing tack. I found this guy. You guys should go check him out if you like Manosphere content. Marshall Brockway. And this guy is like he had me fooled for a little bit, but he's a parody of the Manospherians. But it's like so deadpan and it's so right on that you could watch it and think that it's real. And the sad / funny thing is, if you go to his comments, it's all guys who are like, yeah, man, right on, totally. And it's it's fucked up, because he's mocking these guys. And the art is like letting them mock themselves. But it's, I don't know, it's just an interesting thing in psychology. I definitely would recommend checking him out, checking the comments out. I don't know. I'm assuming some of you guys have seen this. This isn't the only one that's named, but this, again, we're changing tack here. This Vows and Vendettas, and there's a few other channels that are clearly related to it, has the same time. It's like there's like two different guys usually. Although I've seen it actually with some other, like a black guy, but two like young white guys. And they're never together on the screen, but it's one or the other interviewing people, usually outside of a bar, sometimes on the boardwalk, which I guess is in maybe I can't tell, because like I didn't think there was a boardwalk outside of New Jersey. Like I thought that was like a New Jersey thing, but at least one of the times, like several of the times that they're in the boardwalk, they seem to be in Georgia. I didn't know that there was a boardwalk in Georgia. So they go to couples, and then they say, like, they ask them, like, how long have you guys been together? 3 years, whatever. 3 years, okay. Do you trust each other? Yeah, totally, okay. And then, would you be down to put your girlfriend to the test, to see if she's on any dating apps? Sometimes they say, would you be down to put your girlfriend? Sometimes they say, would you put your boyfriend? And then what they do is they take a picture they either take a picture right there of the girl or guy, or they, go to their Instagram or whatever, because these are almost all Zoomers, so they've all got this shit. And they run it through this AI thing they have, which goes and checks every dating app out there. So you take out the person's picture, their name, and their general location. So sometimes they don't even ask like where they, like when they say where do they live, and they just say the name of the state. So I don't know if they're cutting the other part, like so they don't want to give the city they're in, or what, or maybe the state is all. I've never used Tinder or Hinge or Bumble, so I don't know. But they'll put that on there, and then they'll see if like anything hits, if that's the app. So when I think a lot of you guys are probably already thinking it's fake, and when I first saw it, I was like, I don't know, and then sometimes I think maybe it's fake. I've watched enough that I really think it's real. I mean, sometimes it seems a little iffy. I would say that if some of them are fake, I don't think all of them are. And I would say I'd be pretty confident that most of them are real. They are kind of addictive to watch. Like I said, there's two different guys you usually see. One is okay. The other guy is just really rubs me the wrong way. But, because, he does this thing, right, where he'll be like, okay, we're, checking to see if she's on any apps. And then he'll, like, look at it and he'll be like, wait, is this you? Like every time. And it's just, like, it's so, contrived or weird. It's just, like, I just say, like, is this you? Like, don't act like, you're puzzled, like, every single time. Reminds me a little bit of, maybe this was like, you younger guys don't remember, but there was this horrible show that was pretty big pre-social media days called Cheaters. And this guy kind of reminds me of like a Zoomer version of the guy from that. A Zoomer bro version. But, this is, this series or whatever is the first time I've ever really seen a lot of Gen Zs, in their element, out in public or whatever, because I don't really see a lot of Zoomers. I don't know any Zoomers. I don't have any Zoomers in my family. And I am not impressed. One thing that, and my Zoomer viewers can confirm if this is true or not. In these videos, these guys, the guys and the girls, are like nonstop saying bro. They're like, no bro. Like it's like they just say bro, like all the time. It's really off-putting. But they all do it. And again, it doesn't matter if it's a guy or a girl, or if they're talking to a guy or girl. They all do it. Another thing is they say, and I know this is cliche, they say literally a lot. And I know people get when I talk about cliche, the whole thing of saying like, you say literally when you don't mean literally. You say literally when you mean figuratively. It's like a cliche joke or complaint. But that's not, even that's not what I'm talking about. Because sometimes it is literally, it's just unnecessary to say that it's literally. Like, we were literally there last week. As opposed to what, being figuratively there? It's just like, but they, like, again, it's, if it was just like, now or then, because I've done it too. But they do it like these Zoomers do it for like every fucking sentence. It's not pleasant. Another thing is that, we'll talk about the Zoomer girls first. I think the internet has kind of like fucked up my taste, like, it's like if a girl is not like an 8 out of 10, like, I don't know if I can be attracted to her anymore. Maybe IRL, but like not on this screen, because like very few of these, like, these girls are young and fit, and some of them are attractive, but most of them do nothing for me. So you could just say like, oh, maybe your testosterone is declining. I don't know. I'm still attracted to e-girls as much as ever. It's just, I don't know. I guess I just, like I said, maybe it just, the internet just fucked up my standards. Yeah, I don't know what that's all about. There's only been like, of all the ones I've only seen, like, some of them are attractive. There's only one who I thought was like really hot, and that was this one Asian girl. And I'm not even into Asian girls, but she was hot. The other ones, there were some that I thought were like cute, they were pretty, but the rest were just kind of like, not for me. But another thing is like about this whole like, it's very hard to take like black pill orthodoxy seriously after watching this. Not that I took it seriously to begin with, but some of these couples aren't even like, look, I'm seeing like lots of videos with short guys. Like, first of all, there are a lot of short guys. I expected, like, I know it's not true, but if you ask me who's taller, like, let's say I didn't know anything. If you asked me who's taller, Zoomer guys or Boomer guys, I would say Boomer guys are taller. The Zoomer guys are like, a lot of them are short. They really just aren't any taller than the previous generation. They're just not. You know, that's like, I know, like, it's not even, you don't even have to be Black Pill Orthodox to think that. It's just something that I don't know if it's just Zoomers themselves who say it, or, I mean, I remember DBDR saying that he thought that all boomers were like 5'5", and when he said boomers, he didn't mean like guys in their 60s. He meant like guys in their 30s. And just, I don't know if there's just something wrong with Zoomers' brains that they just can't like appreciate height properly. They're also like, you know, like all the things that they talk about, like declining testosterone and stuff with like all the plastics and stuff. I'm not going to say these Zoomer guys all or mostly look feminine, but they do look a little effeminate. I mean, again, not all of them. And plus, don't get me wrong, I see the Zoomer athletes coming into the NBA and NFL every year. Plenty of super athletic, super strong, naturally guys. So I know that there's plenty of really strong masculine Zoomers. But when you're just doing the man on the street, I've been surprised at how physically unimpressive, you know, lots of these guys are. I definitely expected them to at least be taller. You know, I've seen like around here, plenty of, you know, pretty tall Zoomers. Like, you know, you don't have to be, I get mogged by guys of all generations. Sometimes by girls, height mogged by girls, you know, so that's, you know, whatever. Yeah, but overall, not impressed with Zoomers. Yeah, I definitely couldn't make a whole video about this, but Caitlin Clark is a fucking bitch. I made a video back when she was coming out talking about all the bullying she was subjected to. And I was just saying, is it because she's straight? Is it because she's white? Is it because they're jealous because she's so good and popular and stuff? But the thing of, like, whatever I was going for, I assumed that there was something that I just took it for granted as she was being bullied. I don't think that's true. I don't think she was ever being bullied. She goes and she instigates fights. That's not bullying, okay? You know, that's getting hit back, because you can go, I mean, you want to get in people's face and talk shit. I mean, first of all, then you're going to have stuff like that happen. But she doesn't stop there. You know, she goes, and I can think of at least two occasions in the same fucking game where she goes and puts her hands on another player. Well, if you do that, I mean, you made it physical. I mean, like, does it mean that they're allowed to go and deck you? I mean, well, kind of. You know, they're like, I mean, I don't know if you could, I mean, if you instigated the physical contact, then yeah, you're going to get, an enforcer for the other team is going to do something about it. Like, maybe if they were like punching her in the face or choke slamming her. But in this particular game that it came up, the one that I'm talking about, the first time was some girl. By the way, both of these, everybody involved in this was white. Okay, so the first fight, it's Caitlin, it's some other white girl are going back and forth, and they're just, you know, sniping at each other. Caitlin's, you from lip reading, you can tell. I don't know who was in the right, but Caitlin's just being a fucking bitch, which she is. But then it ends. At the end of the fight, Caitlin goes and shoves her. You made it physical. She started it. That's not cool. Okay, that shit wouldn't fly in the NBA. Can you imagine LeBron doing something like that? Like, I don't like the guy, but he would never do something like that. You know? And then what about, like, the one who Caitlin Clark's got compared to a lot is Larry Bird, you know, like being like this kind of really good player and then getting thrust into, against your will, all this, you know, this racial shit. And it's like, well, Larry Bird, you know, is and was a bad guy, you know, but he, you know, didn't, and I'm sure he talked plenty of shit too, but didn't show that level of disrespect to his opponents, you know, that type of entitlement or disrespect to his opponents. And then, but anyway, then the next one is, and I think this one actually says more about what kind of person Caitlin Clark is. Caitlin's dribbling, and like in the dribble, she goes and some type of incidental contact is made and she gets hit in the eye. Painful, bad, not disputing that. But then she goes all diva about it and flips and shoves the player who poked her, even though, And even though she must have known it wasn't deliberate, because she had actually done the same thing to another player a few games earlier. I saw the video of it. So she goes and shoves that girl. She shoves that girl. And then it was after she shoves that girl, the girl who she shoved was white. And then the girl on that girl's team goes and then just runs into her and body checks her, which is totally deserved for what she did. That's like, I mean, you can't do that shit, man. That's not cool. You know, I don't want there to be like violence in the game, and you've got to, at some point you got to be the bigger woman. They're all pros there. That shit is not acceptable, okay? If she's going to act that way, then, yeah, that's why you have enforcers to do that shit. So that's not cool, man. And then it got me thinking about, because remember I was saying, like, I just assumed that Clark really was out there being bullied. We could debate about why, okay? But I assumed that she really was being bullied. But I remember seeing, and then I do remember that, like, complete cheap shot that was probably the most, I don't remember who did it. But I remember the one who did it, who blindsided Caitlin Clark with a complete, I mean, it was after the whistle. Caitlin Clark didn't see it. It was a total cheap shot. But I never really thought about getting her side of like why she did it. I mean, she definitely shouldn't have done it. Like that was again, I'm not excusing that, but it never even occurred to me that Clark may have actually provoked it. I just assumed she was being bullied. But anyway, after that, there was a lot of people who were really watching, like, is this girl being bullied and stuff. And I remember seeing on Twitter things of this foul Angel Reese had on her, and that they were using as an example. If you guys remember at the time, maybe you saw it. But to me, not only was it not a flagrant foul, it just didn't look like a foul. It was with Angel Reese, who's not a dirty player, and she clearly was going straight up. You're allowed, I mean, yeah, Clark is not as strong as Angel Reese, so she took a hit and she collapsed. But like that happens. That's she, as long as Angel Reese had position, she went straight up and down. It just wasn't a dirty play. And even if you wanted to say it was, even if you wanted to say it was a foul, to me it looked like a clean block. But if you wanted to say it was a foul, it was only a foul because Angel Reese got there late. She was clearly going out straight up and down. She wasn't trying to hurt her or bully her or anything. She was just trying to play the play and block the shot. So I remember seeing that and just being like, I don't see what the fuss is all about. Now I just feel that way about the whole thing. I don't want to be too much of a hater, because the truth is I've never liked Caitlin Clark, and I never knew why. I don't know if it's just like, is this some kind of misogyny thing, that there's like this like real talented female athlete and that's why I'm against her. Here's the truth, okay? If Caitlin Clark was a man who is just as dominant and playing, but the exact same personality, I would think that guy's like a faggot. He's a piece of shit. I don't like him. But there's like an extra level of dislike I have for Caitlin Clark, because all that bad. I don't dislike her because she's a woman, but all that bad stuff plus her being a woman does add to it, and that's on me. That's on me. So I don't want to just be a hater. But I guess there is that element there. But it's not like I can't ever root for women or root for strong women, I mean, well, look, I don't like strong women, all right? I never have, and I never will. That I don't apologize for. I think it's good that they exist. It's just not for me. But like Paige Buchers and I know Angel Reese isn't that great at the pro level, but she seems okay. And obviously, I really like the Williams sisters. I think most people did. I liked Serena. Venus, I don't know. So, yeah. That's how I feel about that. I mean, I guess I have some issues to work through. I want to say this, though. I am happy that Caitlin Clark has been able to bring attention to women's basketball in particular and women's sports in general. I think it's... women's sports have actually always gotten attention. It's just always been gymnastics, figure skating, tennis. And I think it's cool that, maybe, women's basketball gets more attention. But for me, like, I just don't like watching women's basketball. And this has nothing to do with them being women. it has to do with the same reason I don't like watching high school basketball or college basketball. I'm only really interested in like the top level of it. Like European basketball, I think is unwatchable. So it's just not for me. But I'm glad that there are opportunities for women who've got that talent, and that there are people who enjoy it. So I do want to give Caitlin Clark credit for that. Okay, last thing, Trump. So yeah, again, I really regret, with that my MAGA and Iran video, not making it clear that a wider war with Iran, like a regime change, even just a regime change operation with Iran, would have been a betrayal of what Trump campaigned on, and the whole MAGA thing. I should have made that clear, but that is how I feel. It would have been, that would not have been. Well, I mean, first of all, it would have been a mistake. But even if it was the right policy, it would have still been a betrayal of what Trump ran on. So, but I think first of all, it's just another, complete unqualified success from Trump, which, we should be used to at this point. I mean, I promise you that, Bibi and the IDF, there is no way they launched that operation, without Trump having their backs. If there was pretty much any other president in U.S. history, they don't launch that attack. That's because Bibi and the IDF are notorious cowards. It's not just me saying this. The people in Israel on both sides of the spectrum would back me up on this. Bibi especially is known for his cowardice, and the IDF brass is probably even worse. I don't know. It's they're kind of cowards in different ways, but yeah. There must have been some firm behind the scenes guarantee from Trump that he had their back, or they wouldn't have done it. And, so when he did it, also it showed that these guys, there had been, when Trump first came on the scene, and I talked about this in the, MAGA Iran video, it was mainly an anti-immigration thing, but very quickly you saw, what was then called the alt-right sort of attached itself to it. And these guys were very focused not just on anti-immigration, but on kind of sort of a neo-white nationalism. And being white nationalists, obviously, these guys are very hostile to Israel and, very sympathetic to Iran. And so you see these guys, the names, Nick Fuentes, Andrew Anglin, Rams Paul, and then I'm not putting this guy in the same place, but Tucker Carlson and Matt Gaetz would be on the kind of the much more moderate end. They're not nearly as extreme as those other guys. They but the same type of ideology. It's just a matter of degree. And what we really see then in the aftermath of this thing is that those guys, whether it be Anglin and Fuentes on one extreme or Carlson and Matt Gaetz closer to the middle, those guys, their influence only existed insofar as they were attached to Trump. Other than that, nobody really cares what they think. Carlson's got a platform, but he doesn't really have any followers. And, Gaetz is just a guy. And, without Trump, they're irrelevant, So Trump, has first of all, he had already lost the Anglins and Fuentes during his first term, and then now he's lost the Gaetz types and Carlsons too. But, we see that politically they just don't matter. You can agree with them or disagree with them, but they have zero political power, and likely they never will. And, I talked about this years ago, I think. Where I was said that, like, you're just not going to make anti-Israel stuff on the right work. It doesn't work anywhere. It's failed because there's plenty of right-wingers in Europe who've tried to do it, and it just doesn't work. The thing is, like, so basically, if you're right-wing, you're like when I say right-wing, I mean like anti-immigrant, okay? If you want to be anti-immigrant in America, Canada, or Europe, you can either be pro-Israel or you can just not talk about Israel. But if you try to be anti-Israel, it does not work. There's just no constituency for that. There's no, like, you can be anti-Israel and win a lot of seats and win a lot of votes, win a lot of elections, but you can't do it on the right. You need to go on to the left to do it. And that's what I was saying. I said, like, look, Fuentes and Anglin, Rams Paul, again, I don't know about Tucker or Gates, but people like that. The left is never going to vote for you. You don't understand the left. They're very tribal. They're not going to vote for anybody on the right, no matter what. So your only bet is going to be to go to the Democrats. That's just, I mean, I know you don't like the Democrats. I'm not saying the Democrats are good, but that's going to be the only place where you will ever have any influence is with the Dems. Or like in other countries with the left-wing parties. You just are irrelevant in the right. You're shut out of the right, and there's nothing you can do on that front. And so I do think this attack kind of closes that whole chapter. This is like the final, whereas you did have this sort of like far-right, white nationalist, anti-Semitic stuff as like, it was never like the main part of Trump's coalition, but it was there. It was there in Trump, especially in the first term, less so in the second term, but still there. And now it's just, I think that this is like, it closes, like I said, it closes the door on that. They're completely excised. And I mean, off to the political wilderness, they could go to the Dems. I don't think they will, but they just no longer have any political relevance. So I don't think there's any need to discuss them one way or the other. But I mean, I want to get back to Trump. So Trump, like I said, Trump, I mean, yeah, you can give Israel some credit for knocking out Iran's nuclear weapons, but really it doesn't happen without Trump. And Trump's the guy who did the deciding blow. Another thing is, it's like the impact of the U.S. destroying those sites versus Israel having done it, it's much stronger if the U.S. has done it, because it shows the Iranians and everybody else that Trump is willing to use military force against them directly. Whereas I think the Iranians had probably thought that, okay, maybe Israel will attack us, but the U.S. never will, and they can't think that anymore, and that's going to affect their calculations going forward. I'm sure you guys saw that in the aftermath, some deep state hack in the CIA tried to say, like, oh no, the program's only been delayed by a few months. It's complete bullshit. It's not true. I mean, obviously, Fordow. I mean, first of all, the U.S. only attacked 3 sites: Fordow, Natanz, and I think Isfahan. It's obvious. It's so obvious that none of those sites will ever be used again. So even if Iran developed a nuclear weapon tomorrow, those sites are still gone. And that's because of Trump. And it was obvious, again, it's just deep state hacks, faggots trying to diminish Trump. And there's nothing to it. Now, look, Iran could still develop a nuclear weapon. They could accelerate their thing to it. They could kick out the inspectors and stuff. The difference is that now Iran has no control of its own airspace, and wherever they try to, I mean, like, yeah, they could develop something in secret. They could have done that before the attacks too. So, if they want to, anything they try to build, they've got, I mean, any of their secrets they try to build, the country's obviously completely been overrun with spies. Now they have to worry that it's going to get hit. It could get hit. So yes, Iran could secretly develop something. So yeah, there are some negative contingencies, but there's really nothing to stop Israel or potentially even the U.S. from bombing whatever things that every news stations that Iran sets up. And to get enough enriched uranium and to build a nuclear weapon, it isn't really something you can just like do in your basement. It needs like a variety, the type of infrastructure that gets picked up by drones and satellites. There's no way to keep that shit secret. So, I mean, like, look, the Iranians are pretty out there. I'm sure they'll try something eventually. I don't think they're ever going to give up their nuclear weapons program, but for them to like just rebuild the infrastructure to make a nuclear weapon is going to take a lot of time. And when they do rebuild it, it's just going to get bombed again. And if it doesn't get bombed again, at least it could be. And that's all because of Trump. So that's a great win. But then it gets back to the other great win of Trump is the border. Only Trump could have secured the border. The border was never secure before Trump. Yes, it was particularly bad during Biden, but it was never secure before. I remember in 2004, and this was after 9/11, mind you, that John Kerry, the Democrat, was criticizing George W. Bush for not being good enough about securing the border. Trump has shut it down completely. Only Trump could have done it. I remember the wars, the battles during Trump's first term, where the people Trump had weren't doing enough to shut down the border, and Trump, Trump through force of will, kept firing people until he got somebody who would actually do the job. And now the border's secure. And that's only because of Trump. So you want to talk about other stuff, like some critics, and then Trump's the one who's stopped, refugee resettlement. And they were saying that we might have a month this year in 2025 where more people leave the U.S. than come in. For like the first time, ever or something? Probably for the first time since like the 1950s. Or 1960s. Maybe even further than that. That does not happen without Trump. Yes, Trump says bad things about how he loves illegal immigrants. Yes, Trump hasn't done anything about like legal immigration, which is the bigger problem than illegal immigration to begin with. That's true. So what? Ronald Reagan never did anything about welfare reform. It didn't happen until after he was over. What Reagan did was set the stage. So, no, Trump hasn't done anything about that yet. There's nothing he can do. So, you take what you can get. And nobody should be saying mission accomplished on immigration. But Trump did all any president possibly could have done on immigration. Trump has done, and he really exceeded expectations, I think. Or exceeded what expectations reasonably could have been. Then, there's this thing about the whole big, beautiful bill. I got to be honest, I have no idea what's in it. I don't care if it passes or not. I assume that nothing really matters. My feeling is, like I said before, I know one criticism is that it raises the deficit. Look, we've got like a fake economy with fake money. Deficits are bad, but, you have to deal with reality as it is. And, again, we've got this fake economy. It's unreformable. Okay, this like deficit financed, fiat money, fake stuff. It's unreformable. It's going to keep going until it collapses. Until it collapses, you just ride it as best you can. In which case, you don't worry about the deficits. You don't worry about trying to slow the collapse. You just worry about making it till the next term. And so anything about expending like the deficit is just not worth worrying about. Just forget about the deficits. It'll collapse when it collapses, and we'll deal with it then. But there's no way to proactively deal with it. It just can't be done. So no need to stress. Another thing I was surprised about with Trump was just how popular he is. Because I remember his first term where I watched his popularity a lot. His popularity was always around 40%, and you look at it now and it's always around 45%. And I think that's really just because of just the fatigue with the left. Trump's second term is a lot different, because in Trump's first term, Trump was very much on the defensive. One, because of the low popularity. Two, because of the Russia stuff. And the other thing, like the left, because I was more engaged with the left back then. All of Trump's first term, the left They were going insane, but they always were like, we're going to get him. We're going to get him. It's Mueller is the guy who's going to get rid of him for us, or you know, sometimes they would think this this guy's going to get rid of him, or this guy. You know, they always thought that, you know, Trump is. It became like, you know, like a meme. Trump is finished. They always thought, yeah, Trump is done. You know, Mueller's closing in, his approval's declining, blah blah blah. This time there isn't really anything like that. They know that they're not going to impeach Trump. They're not going to be able to. There's no special counsel to bring him down. They get that this time. They still really hate Trump. Some of them still are as fanatical as they were in the first term, but, you know, and I'm going to get to that because I hadn't been paying attention to politics, and I just got back, started reading some left-wing sites to see how they were responding to the Iran stuff. Because in my family, where, I mean, Trump is like Satan, I remember like just the insanity that during Trump's first term. They were crazy. And they still hate Trump. They would still never vote for him. But honestly, and they wouldn't like to admit this, they don't hate him much more than they hated like George W. Bush. They like they'll vote against him, and they're like, because now they like Bush now that he's gone. They'll never feel that way about Trump. But in terms of like how much they hated Bush at the time versus how much they hate Trump at the time, it's about the same. So it's about what you'd expect. So the fact that Trump in this ultra polarized environment is still able to have 45% approval, and the economy is not even that good, is very impressive. I mean, Biden was at like 40% for most of his presidency before things like completely fell apart, and he went down to like in the 20s. So yeah, it's really impressive. I mean, obviously the Dems are going to clean up in the midterms. They're probably favored to, I know it's early, but you'd probably favor them to win in 2028. But really, they've kind of already lost, because if you remember what it was like in 2012, like that world is gone. That was the one where they had won. It seemed like they had won everything, and it was just in mop-up operations, and they'll never be able to put the anti-immigrant genie back in the bottle. And you see, when you read liberal stuff, you see more and more stuff about them talking about seceding from the Union, which they would never do, because it would be completely self-destructive. Like I've said before, we can live without them. It would be bad, but we can live without them. They cannot live without us. You know, it would just, their countries just wouldn't work. So yeah, I'm sorry that was so scattered. The other thing is that guy winning in the Pakistani fella winning the mayor race in New York. You know, I mean, again, it's I've always said I don't see the far left as an ally, but they're not an enemy. The enemy is the center left. You know, so if you have to choose between Mamdi and AOC versus Chuck Schumer and, I don't know, Gavin Newsom, you know, give me Mamdi and AOC every day. And the center left is the true enemy. You know, these far leftists are, at least they're anti-corporation, right? And at least they hate the center left. So so yeah, I think that the stuff that he was campaigning on, though, like, I can't believe anybody would vote for that. I guess there's more people who believe in that socialist stuff than, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I like the anti-cop stuff. But the other stuff is crazy. Stuff about like government-owned supermarkets and like more rent control and stuff. And for him to just say that he's like proud to be a sanctuary city, like that's crazy. Like why would you say that stuff unless you're trying to lose the election? So I would assume he loses the election, but I hope he wins. So yeah, like I mean, definitely, yeah, the Dems are in a lot of trouble, but absolutely, the far left is, I want to say one other thing about that. Because this is something that I've always been frustrated with, on the right. If you guys were following, I know the Iran stuff kind of blocked it out, But before the Iran stuff, there was like these massive protests in Los Angeles against ICE and the immigration enforcement. And you know, there was like, you know, like, and the Dems, you know, being just idiots, of course, backed up the protest because they just have to reflexively be against anything Trump it is. And then, you know, here's where we go again. And I know I've talked about this before. If you poll the public, they'll be like, do you approve Trump on immigration? Of course, the public's going to say no, that they don't want this stuff. But it doesn't matter. What matters is that the riots against the immigration get associated in the public's head with the left. And, you know, that kind of stuff, you know, because Trump, the left was not hated by the public before Trump the way they are now. You know, the thing is, like, there were sections of the public that did, but the sort of like broadness, like the just sort of distrust and just revulsion for the left, you know, comes from their behavior, stuff like this. But so we don't have to worry about the leftists who do things like riot and attack immigration officers. The worry is when guys like Pennsylvania Senator John Fetterman said, and he actually said it, he said, I support immigration, but I have to strongly condemn this violence. Dude, that is, and then you have people on the right saying, well, he's a reasonable guy. Here's a Democrat we can work with. No. No. The violence isn't a problem. The problem is the immigration. Okay? I don't care how somebody feels about violence. Okay? The issue is large scale, is mass immigration. You know, if they support, so if anybody says like, oh, I support immigration, but it's got to be legal and go to, no. That's the worst thing. That's the last thing we want. We want the Dems supporting violent, lawless immigration. Don't give the public a choice because they'll just choose massive legal immigration, okay? This is like the problem like with democracy. The public is a bunch of fucking retards. They shouldn't have a say in how they're governed. You know, you have to deal with it to some extent, but give them a choice that we're like, make them choose between either complete chaos or no immigration at all. Do not give them the option to have controlled, legal, good immigration. Fuck that. They'll choose that every time. So guys like Fetterman are dangerous. You know, we need regular Dems, like we can deal with guys like, even a guy like Chuck Schumer we can deal with. Guy like Fetterman we can't. All right. That's all for now. See you in the next.